2017 Leitrim Intermediate Football Final. It's Leitrim Gaels and Lough. Leitrim Gaels have only been formed as recently as the last 20 years.
Leitrim Gaels are a GAA club based in Leitrim Village, County Leitrim, and in existence since 1997. It's just over 20 years since some local people decided to put together a committee to see about forming the Leitrim Gaels GAA club. Over the next hour, we'll hear from some of those involved behind the scenes to get Leitrim Gaels on the road. From the early days, training and preparing on Vera's Field in Leitrim Village, to sharing grounds with some of the local teams, to where the team are now with their own fantastic facilities in the Leitrim Gaels Community Pitch just outside the village. In just a short time, the club have covered a lot of ground, with many now looking to the next 20 years to see how the club develops.
The full-time scoreline, 12 points for Lough, 10 points for Leitrim Gaels.
I travelled to Port just outside Leitrim Village to speak with Bernie Whitney, one of the founding members of the Leitrim Gaels Football Club. Here he explains how it all came about.
What brought it about as much as anything was that in 1952, Cork played Leitrim down in Cornamorth. It was quite a good day. A flat pitch, only that was small, but there was a huge crowd there. Biggest crowd Leitrim has ever seen anyhow. The Leitrim team, I think, was led by Leo McLoughlin was on it anyhow, and Packy McCarthy, I think, was on it also. It was probably his first venture on a county team. So that created an interest, and the following year the Garda Sergeant set up the club, myself and Paddy Riley, and we had best years of our lives run up.
And that club would be the St. Joseph's Club?
St. Joseph's.
And how long then did that club run from the 1950s?
Well, it ran into 1962. We did it up in 1962, mainly because of immigration. It was rife at that time.
And after that then, when the club stopped, there would have been no football in the village, no club.
Carrick was going strong at the time, and they took whatever we had.
So we move forward then 30 years from the closure, I suppose, of St. Joseph's, and we're up to probably around about 1996.
My son Brian, he was very much in favour of getting the club going, because he said, we're around the village, he's just like having nothing to do, and we'll end up getting into mischief. It'd be preferable if we had something to do. So he was the main reason for its formation.
Yeah, I suppose it was a dream, and for once Dad got this idea in his head, he would have pushed on and rounded up Tommy Padden and John Flynn, Imelda McManus and Bernie Goldrick and people like that. And from there, the dream became reality. I think Dad gives me more credit for the decision than I deserve, because I couldn't get over how much momentum he had gathered in such a short space of time when it came to getting people involved and getting good people involved.
I spoke to Michael Treacy from Leitrim Village, who explains now how he got involved with Leitrim Gaels.
Bernie Whitney came along to me and explained to me what he was trying to do to get a club put in place. I wasn't involved really in having to do with the playing. I was obviously beyond my playing days or not, but I was very much aware of it.
Now, when you say that you didn't play, some of your family went on to be stars for the club.
My two sons are still play for the club. Ewan is the captain of the club, or captain at senior level, has been the captain for a few years. Brian still plays for the club. The club has went from strength to strength in terms of its playing. It's now Division 1. Big ambition at the minute is to win an intermediate championship.
I chatted with Gerry Spellman from Leitrim Village, who spoke to me about how he got involved with the club.
I remember back in November 1996, I was after coming from work, and we had only been a very short time living in Leitrim Village, maybe 2 years at the time, and I didn't know too many people around, and a knock came to the door one evening after I came from work, and it was a neighbour of ours who we barely knew, Imelda McManus. She told me of their plight to start up a football club in the area. I hadn't played a lot of football at that time, except a small bit of underage football with St. Ronan's down the road in Keju. I was delighted to see Imelda at the door, and we brought her in and we talked about it, and she asked me if I would attend a meeting which was coming up in St. Joseph's National School, and I said I would, and she asked me would I be interested in playing football with the club, and I said I would, and that's where it all began. We went to the meeting and a large crowd attended, and it was from there really it escalated and the club got its foundation. I wasn't involved in the committee that went to the county board, but they received a favourable response, and people in the county board thought that there was no way that we could have enough names or enough people, or that at the back of their minds they kind of dismissed it, that we wouldn't be able to start up a club. But we proved them wrong. I think on the first training session we had 24 or 25 people training. Our trainer was Joe Brennan and our manager was the late Vincent Malloy, and unfortunately Joe Brennan has passed on since as well. He was our club president.
Bernie Goldrick now chats to us about his first day togging out with the Leitrim Gaels Football Club.
I togged out on the first day alright for Leitrim Gaels 97. It all came about, I met Bernie Whitney where I was coming down to see a carding. I just happened to meet him, and Bernie stopped and he said, "Bernie, have you boots?" So that time, if you had boots, you could play. There's no need you didn't need football skills or anything like that, just to go for Leitrim Gaels boots. But at the time, not too many had boots, so we all had to go off and buy boots to tag out for Leitrim Gaels on the day.
John Flynn from Tullylan and Leitrim Village, also approached by Bernie Whitney, explains what happened next.
Bernie, Tom, Padden and myself decided that we would bring the idea to a local meeting. A number of factors were put in place was to get a number of clubs to back us, that we could bring it to county board and see where we stood.
I spoke to Tommy Padden from Leitrim Village, who had documents on the original board members. I first put it to Tommy that he himself is also one of the founding members of the Leitrim Gaels Football Club.
That is right, yeah.
The original board members:
Bernie Goldrick, Gerry Spellman, Noeleen McLoughlin, Joe Bran, Imelda McManus, Willie Joe Fard, Michael Treacy, and Sean Morton, of course.
And yourself.
And myself.
Imelda McManus now recalls those early days.
Bernie Whitney came to me and he said, would I give him a hand at starting up a football team? Now, I know Bernie had a bit of the groundwork done at that stage. I said no problem, because as you know, I'm from a footballing background and I loved it. We started off and we called a meeting, I'd say about for 3 weeks after that, and had a great turnout at it. That was, I think it was about 14 or 15 of November 96.
And you would have had a little bit of background with GAA.
I'm from a footballing background from Eston, from the Stensons in Eston. But I would never have been involved in the club, but my brothers would have played football. But it was just something I love. I love football. And
that was one of the key things then when it came to the football, was to be able to get the support of other clubs, and things like that was important.
That was important. With Noeleen McLoughlin, she was from Fianna, and John Flynn was from Gartletra. I think that's what stood to us on the first night.
Noeleen McLoughlin is another who was there at the start.
Yeah, I was there at the beginning. I was part of the committee for years. I remember us going to a meeting in Drumshanbo, Imelda and myself, and I just don't know who else was along with us, and they wanted the support of local clubs, so I was very involved with the Fianna club, because all my brothers played with Fianna and the county team, and my father was treasurer of Bourne and Ogue for years in County Leitrim, and I played football myself, and I won an All-Ireland medal with Leitrim, and I won several kind of titles, so I was very interested in the GAA, and it's kind of, I just say it's like a bug. Once you have it, it never goes away. So we went down to a meeting anyway, and I had the backing of Fianna and Imelda had the backing of Estlin, and we knew a few more people there. So we got to go ahead anyway to have our team. So that was how I started with Leitrim.
Tommy Morton now was a great help to us in the beginning. So he was. He came to several meetings with us, and he was really the one that helped us to set it up. He was the secretary of Leitrim County Board.
I think from memory there was something so many people had to pay, I think it was 200 punts at the time each to money towards go and register in the club.
Yes, when we started a course like that, we had no money. So the first thing we had to do was decide where would money come from. So 12 people, now the names evade me at this stage, but 12 families came together and put €200 into the kitty just to get us started. And then there was money raised every week or every 2 weeks, a function in some of the pubs to put the money together. And that's how we got our finance started. Our first trainer now was Vincent next door. And it used to be so funny. We never got word, to say we were having a match on a Sunday. So, of course, when we started first, we had 10 games, one Sunday after another. Every Monday morning, I just go to Vincent. Vincent, we have another game next Sunday. And all Vincent would say was, well, I have to go and look for more players. There was always more players to be found. When we started first now, we had to go around and ask a lot of fellas to tog out. I can still remember going up to the Creamery in Mulvihill and asking Paddy Parker to tog out. Paddy said, I never played football in my life, so he said, well, I have no boots, so we were saying, well, you'll have to get something.
It gave a great feeling to the young fellas going out, They didn't have much skill when they started off. After a few short months, they were doing the stuff.
I put it to Bernie Whitney that when the board were meeting in those early days, that they probably discussed where would they play and who'd play for them.
That's right, that did come up, and they were offered Vera Darlan's field for practice. There was nothing unusual about that because in the 50s the same case applied. That's where we practiced as well, so we're coming home to roost. It was on a hillside, but...
that was a good way to get the lads fit.
Oh, undoubtedly, got fit all right. At the start, they got a few good trouncings, but they woke up and they won. After a few years, they started to win. And I would say they're a top underage team in the county now at the minute.
Kilturbridge had offered their grounds for us to train or play on if we got permission. So it was brought to a county board meeting. The period of bringing it to the county board meeting was very fraught because we had to prove that we could field a team, and the famous words from Tommy Moran after came to really haunt us in some ways was what headstones we got the names of in Kiltahart graveyard. When he said those words to Bernie and myself, we didn't know whether to cry or laugh. We were a committee without a club, without a name. I personally then had made a short presentation as I thought would be relevant to it. And then Pat Clark from Gortletcher stood up and said, look at what's wrong, in giving them a trial period. And then they decided, yes, the trial would be gone in 12 months anyway. And really looking at it, we should have been gone, but we were a lucky bunch.
When it came to the name of the club, how did that come about?
There was 5 or 6 different suggestions. One was Shemore Gaels, St. Joseph's was mentioned. A combination of the village, Leitrim Gaels, Leitrim Football. Leitrim Gaels caught the attention of the meeting. That was the first thing we decided.
The Leitrim Gaels colours, how did that come about?
Well, that came about through John Flynn's mother. She picked out those colours. They are a flower. But I can't tell you the name of the flower.
Yeah.
So that's how the colours came about.
My mother, who had been ill in a Dublin hospital, had said to me as I was leaving from the visit, she said, there's a plant there, will you bring it back to your own house? And the plant had a combination of purple and green. On the way back, I passed O'Neill's in Dublin, the factory, and I went in and I presented the plant and I said to the person at the reception, would you mind printing out what a jersey would look like containing those colours? So it was a two-tone. It was a more darker green at that time. It had to be bright because when it rained, it sort of went black. And it was presented to the meeting. That was, from my point of view, very sort of sentimental because sometime after my mother died. The first 15 players, Thomasina Padden, put the Irish names together on some of the people.
And they got, I think, 61 names of young people who were prepared to play Gaelic football. So that was the very beginning. And so John Flynn came round, and I remember sitting at the kitchen table with this list and us trying to convert these English names into Gaelic, because I was a local moonshore at the time. So I remember that was with fondness. So that was really the beginning of members of the Leitrim football teams.
The first photograph, it was just a marvellous feeling that now the day had come.
This is what I call myself the team of 97. This team that we're looking at here now, this is the team that took to the field on the 9th of March 1997. Our opposition that day was Kiltubert, Jim Flynn there, Brian Whitney, Andrew Cullen, Tammy Ferguson, Darren Malloy, Aidan Whitney, Joseph Farrell, Darren Smith, and myself, Bernie Goldrick, Damien Whitney, Sarah Guckian, Frank Whitney, and James Crest. And there, with our trainer there and manager was Vincent Malloy. And Paddy Farrell, Gerry Spellman, Gerry McLoughlin, Patrick Flynn, Willie Morton, captain on the day, Ian McDonough, Johnny Goldrick, Adrian Gill, and Jody Bran and Fergus Whitney. Now, the scoreline on the day, it wasn't our best of days, and things have improved a lot since. On the day, it was 7-9 to 1-6. That's what took the field, and I know Seamus Pryor was refereeing that day. Seamus was a well-known referee in Leitrim and nationally as well at the time. I was playing myself, I came on half-time on the day. It was tough going. Vincent, of course, was our manager, and he said, keep your eye on the ball. But I kept my eye on the ball the first battle, but the first thing I ran into a player and busted my nose. But that day there was no blood subs or anything like that, but you hadn't to go off, we were covered in blood, but we kept going anyway. But that's my first day out for Leitrim Gaels.
Yeah, I remember the first game, 1997. I look back on that, I had great fondness. That year we ended up winning one game in the league by virtue of a walkover against Ohawillan.
And did it take long to prepare for that game, Bernie?
Well, I think we got about 2 weeks training. We took the Vera Donlands field on a Sunday for our first training session. And once again, I wanted to thank the Donlan family, Vera herself, at the time, for giving us the use of the field, and all the Donlan family, all they done for the club, give us only for the training pitch weren't bothered. But we went training for, I suppose, 2 weeks before the game. But Joe the Great, he brought us down to Vera Donlands field one night, at night time, and he got his Jeep with the hazard warning lights, and we started running out the church road. But Joe didn't stop until he got to the Devil's Elbow, which would be about 2 miles out the road, trying to get us fit. Mm-hmm. But I think Joe Farrell and Sonny Kane had to get a book break to bring some of us back. But we got fairly fish area, and we won our first championship game.
And then we beat Fina in the championship.
Fina were beating us at half time by 2 goals and 4 points to a point. But Vincent Malloy and Joe Brennan got us into the dressing room and gave us a bit of a dressing down, to say the least. And we went out in the second half with a completely different attitude, winning on a scoreline of 2-7 to 2-4. We held Fina scoreless in the second half. Naturally enough, our first championship game to win, there was jubilant scenes after that. We came home to the village with a rapturous welcome, and I don't think there was a bit of work done that week, but that was the highlight of my career anyway. To win that first championship game meant an awful lot to us.
I'd say there was Club All-Ireland's less celebrated than that win by us. I remember Horn speaking, going back to the village from Kiltubert for just a championship win in Junior B. I don't think we missed the game that entire year because of lack of players, which is a credit to the managers and the players themselves. That's a great credit to lads.
I met Bernie Goldrick at the Leitrim Gaels Community Pitch, and it was during that tour of the facilities that we stopped and talked about that very game against Fina.
Just the faces on that day, which will go down in history as our championship win as well. Joe was selected after Joe Brennan, Gerry McLoughlin, Fergus Whitney, Alan Mulvey, Paddy Farrell, Jody Brannan, Bernie Goldrick, Sean McEwen, Damien Whitney, Sean McGovern, Joe Farrell, Adrian Whitney, James Crest and Vincent Malloy, Tommy Guckian, Ronan Padden, Fergus Whitney, Willie Morton, Gerry Spellman, Brian Whitney, Brett Early, Ian McDonough, Tom Mullaney, and there's Adrian Gill. Sorry, Adrian couldn't play on the day, he was just after getting his appendix out a week or two before that. And Gerry McLoughlin, he was just after recovering from a broken leg at the time as well.
We did pick up a few more recruits. Sean McKeown and Alan Mulvey joined, and they were a great help that year, and played in the championship for us. Sean McGovern from Australia came back for a while and played with us as well. Also, I remember in '97, probably our third game, we played Aucknasheelan in Aucknasheelan, and I remember we took a serious drubbing. But my memory of Adrian Gill that day was amazing. He scored, the only scores we got, 2 goals and 2 points. Penalty with the outside of his left boot, a blazer of a goal from about 30 yards into the top corner, and 2 magnificent points. Adrian didn't, I think maybe played a second year with us as well, and then Adrian moved to Letterkenny with college, and we just didn't see him much. But he was the one young lad I always remember with tremendous talent, a lovely sweet left foot on him. You'd pay in to watch him, and you'd wonder with a bit more coaching and a bit more of a background in Gaelic how far he could have went. He was a tremendous player. The momentum was gathering in '98. We did bring in a few new players. I remember John Casey being the standout one, who has been with us since and is still tagging out for the first team. So that's 20 years later. It's 21st season with the Gaels. I don't think any of those seasons he didn't play. He played in every one of them. And there was other fella from Drumshanbo, came back from St Mary's, so I suppose we had, in the early years, we were more about recruiting than we were about developing. That's the great change that's come around the club since.
A year later, in 1999, Gerry Spellman had to retire from playing for Leitrim Gaels, but it set him on a new playing field.
In 1999, I received a very serious injury, and it finished my playing career anyway. And I took up refereeing after that, and since that I have been refereeing on a regular basis from senior down to national school games.
And Gerry, in 2003, that was also a big moment for yourself and for the club when you got top referee in the county.
Oh yeah, that's right, Mike. The county board had their awards in, I think it was in Clark's Hotel in Mulvihill on that year. 7 or 8 or 10 of us from the club, maybe 12, went to the awards night in the hotel that night, and I was lucky enough to get Senior Referee of the Year, which was a big surprise to me and to club members, because we were only in existence at that stage, and it was a good boost for the club to have a Senior Referee of the Year in the club.
Bernie Whitney now explains the transition from Vera's Field to the new community football pitch.
After a few years, naturally enough, when we knew we had to get a pitch because numbers were growing and there was no place to go, or not enough of space anyhow. Hill isn't a very suitable place for training, for kicking football anyway, especially. So we tried one place on top of a hill, but someone said after they were very lucky not to get it, they would be blown off it. So the second choice was a fella that I knew well. I decided to go to him and ask him would he give us the makings of a pitch, as to say, and he agreed that he would. And we picked out the pitch, but it was something the same as a quarter web hog. It was 4 feet below the rest of the land. And anyone that would say, well, the fellas that go in and buy that would be stone mad. Anyhow, it transpired that we bought it and finished it, and then we looked for someone to do it, and sent out for tenders. A company from Armagh done it anyhow. And they asked the owner of the land at the time if they could take a hillside off it to fill in below, and he agreed that they could. That's what they did after about a month's work. It was in the evening, and the digger man had his work finished and he was relaxed. It was a good evening. I asked him how he was getting on. He says he couldn't get on any better. He says because there was stones, he says, as big as a VLA. He says, and he filled up the whole place. And there was the finest of soil along with that. So it couldn't have fitted better.
And it's a fantastic development now, so it is, and a great community pitch as well.
Yes, so it had turned out very well.
The Leitrim Gaels Community Pitch is located approximately a quarter of a mile past Leitrim Village on the Drumshanbo Road. It was opened in 2007. The new grounds featured a full-sized all-weather pitch and running track, a large car park, as well as a state-of-the-art dressing room complex with a fully fitted stainless steel kitchen, function room and offices. In May of 2007, it was a proud occasion for Leitrim Gaels members and the committee who set the wheels in motion when they played their first game, which was a draw, against Ahavas in the Masonite League Division 4.
I have to say, when Bernie brought me out to show me the field, it didn't look great, but the one thing, it was 5 to 6 acres and it was flat. At least it was 5 acres flat. And the locals had remembered hay being saved on that field. And at the time then there was little drains running down through it and rushes and all, and we said, well, I have a diesel 20 tractor, I drove it in through a gate. There was no gate as such, there was a sort of a fence made up of trees and whatever, and went in and drove through it, and I had a mowing bar on it and cut a section across. The best way of convincing them was to raise the funds. And I have to say that there was 4 or 5 including Bernie and Tom and others, who raised 50,000.
It was only a dream. When we started talking about first, we never thought it was going to be reality, you know. You would not think you have a football pitch here. Because I went up to Bernie's house, he called me and he brought me up and showed me the ground. Now, it was in several different fields. There was a river running through it. There was an ESB line running through it. There was rushes, we won't say how high. And what we said we'd go with it, because we were living on a dream. If you haven't believed in a dream, you know the dream will never come true. But I went up to Bernie's house and we said we needed about 200 yards long of a pitch. So I went up and got an electric fence line. So Bernie held it one and he said, walk down there 100 yards and come back up. So we got her 200 yards that time. And we came back out here to the gate. I stood at the gate. Bernie went off down the field or rushes and drains with his line, and in fairness Bernie did disappear a few times in drains and like that, so we went down and we measured it out, and then we had to get the width of the pitch, and Bernie said that sorted out.
It was a big task. We had to spend a lot of money, we had a lot of fundraising, and one person or 2 or 5 people couldn't have done that. It was a community effort. We were fundraising night, noon and morning all over the county and even outside the county for years. But thankfully it all came together in the end, and we had a good man working with us, and that was Michael Treacy.
Needed an awful lot of money and an awful lot of work to bring it to any level of suitability.
Only for Leitrim Gaels this wouldn't be here now, you know, because the club needed grounds to go forward. You know, you need your own clubs, and Kiltubber gave the use of their grounds in the early years, and we used that for our home game. And Fear Donlan and the Donlan family gave the use of their field in Leitrim Village, and only for that we wouldn't be here. But we started off, I think it was 2008 we played our first game. 2007, 2008 we played our first game here after years and years.
We could have went 2 ways when we were getting our football pitch. We could have vested in the GAA or vested as a community pitch. So to get the maximum grants, we had to go the community facility way.
It's a community facility, and it's for the full community. It's for Leitrim Village and the surrounding area, and it has the capacity and the flexibility to be used for any sport or any activity. I suppose I'll go to the end first. In total it's cost about 1.2 million to do the whole thing, between the pitch and the community centre and any of the other associated stuff like car parks and stuff like that. Now, at the moment, there's a loan left on of about 90,000, so 90,000 left on 1.2 million isn't not too bad. I think it's in pretty good shape. Other people like to play a very key part in it. There's a man, Joe Guckian, Joe is the silent hard worker. Joe has been the treasurer basically from day one, and Joe is a very safe pair of hands with the money, and that's very, very important in any organisation.
Joe, of course, background in accountancy.
Oh yeah, Joe was
the right man at the job.
Oh yeah. You should never try and put square pegs in round holes. Joe was definitely the round peg in the round hole, yeah.
There's a lot of work gone into it, like, we spent about 1.3 million, so that's a lot of money. Yeah, I think we're about to be 85,000 at the moment or something like that around that, so it's not too bad, like, it's another few years and I have to go. So some days you think, God, you'll never get it down, other days, Like, I was in England in the 90s, when I left here, like, there was no football club, there was nothing, there's no bit of a hole or something, but I came back, I was...
it was all change.
All change.
Changes were really happening.
Really happening, that's it, yeah.
And, one of those things where you talk about people getting involved and all that, when I arrived here this morning, Gerry Spellman was out cleaning up. You were doing the lines on the pitch, getting it ready for the games tomorrow. And it's small things like that, even going around maybe giving the car park a sweep or whatever. Small little things like that people can do.
Yeah, that's it, yeah.
We basically broke it up into two halves. We set about getting monies to develop the pitch itself. And that was substantially funded by the Sports Capital. Sports Capital is very much it's monies that's paid to sporting organisations and for the general development of sport within communities. We done a lot of work on that, on applications and that, and we got a lot of help. I'm purposely not going to name any names because it's just there's so many people that helped us, and we wouldn't have got there without that. And obviously we ourselves, the committee themselves, had to do a substantial amount of work to make it happen. We got approximately, I think that cost about 400 and some thousand, I think, roughly. But as I said, that substantially came from the Sports Capital. So then the other part of the equation was the community centre itself. There was a fund at that time called the Dormant Accounts Fund. There was monies that had been in banks that hadn't been claimed by customers. Don't think there's too much of that today around us, but anyway, that there was such a fund in those days, and we made application for it. It was a long process, but we got there in the end, and we got funded. We got what we sought, I think, which was about 470,000. So then we set about building the centre. The pitch itself was a little bit ahead. We had it sort of done a year or two before the centre. Later then we did stuff like tarring car park and stuff like that. So the whole thing is pretty much completed. We have been successful in keeping it running. It's very much run on the basis of pay per use. The GAA club are the main users. Then other users would be ladies football, ladies GAA use it quite a bit, but they pay for it as they use it. But everybody who uses it basically pays for it. It has to be paid for and kept running in the context of obviously it takes heat, light, insurance, all that type of stuff. I wouldn't be as frontline in it now as I used to be. I have pulled back from it a bit in the last year or two. I was the chairman of it's basically what's known as Leitrim Gaels Community Development Limited. It's set up as a company, but that's basically for grant reasons and all that type of thing. So I was the chairman of that. Now it's separate in the context that there's the GAA club who has its own committee and chairman and so on. I retired from that about a year ago, and Gerry Spellman is the present chairman.
Tommy and Thomasina Padden now share a letter with us about the fundraising efforts by the Leitrim Gaels Football Club.
Now this letter was written by Bernie Whitney to anyone in America, West Coast, East Coast, who would be interested in setting up a Pat Flynn Memorial Fund. This is to all the hopeful fundraisers or sponsors. Now, I'll just read it as Bernie wrote it. Port House, Leitrim, Carrigan-Shannon, the 27th of September 2004. Acara, on behalf of the Pat Flynn Memorial Fund set up by his wife Esther to support Leitrim Gaels Community Field Development Company, I humbly ask for your support. Pat lived for over 40 years in New York, but his heart's desire was to see this project brought to a successful conclusion. Pat played for the Leitrim team in New York, as did his brothers Kevin and Sean. Every Sunday Pat came to Gaelic Park to see every game played, every Sunday throughout the season for many years. Sporting affairs in his native county were a must and football results a priority. He loved football, set dancing and any sports that was good for youth development. I can assure you a top-class all-weather sports field is nearing completion. Very shortly, 7 acres will be grass-seeded and permanently fenced at a cost in excess of €500,000, a fitting tribute to a man who loves sport. Trusting your response will be positive and any donations will be acknowledged. Michel Lemass, Bernard Whitney, and a lot of donations came running in from especially the Brennan family all over America and Alaska and the Flynns. Shea Whitney was in America. He was down the west coast at that stage. Yeah. So that appeal was proved successful.
Thanks for reading that, Thomasina. It was lovely to capture that.
Yes.
And later on, there was several different efforts made for fundraising locally in the village.
Money towards the field, 2,500. The Lough McCool then is after that. They had 1,655. The sports weekend then come up after that, 2,000 I suppose nearly. But
it all added up, so
yeah, it all added up. And the next one after that was horse racing, 6,000.
And was this the horse racing? It was a novelty kind
of
event?
It was. On the screen, yeah. That was Mike.
At the pony drive, that would have been Brendan Flynn.
Brendan Flynn, right. All the friends up there round Kiltard.
Yeah.
But I'm actually amazed when I look at the Christmas logs. I didn't realise that it was 1,560 was made out of those. Now that was due to Gerry Spellman. Deserves a lot because he cut the logs, if I remember right.
They were made in James Gilcrease's shed at the house, and he had all the woodwork equipment where we cut the logs and set them up and sprayed them.
That brings to mind also another man who was very, very prominent, Vincent Malloy. He got T-shirts before anyone had the money to buy jerseys, and with Leitrim Gaels across them. And I still have a couple of those T-shirts. Later on, my husband Tommy retired from Aircom, and he got a few bob. We thought we were millionaires. And Tommy, in his graciousness, went over to Frank O'Brien in Ballinamore. I went with him, and Tommy paid for the first Leitrim Gaels junior team. £359.90. That's interesting because it's pounds.
Pounds, yeah.
That's a calendar that was done in 1998. I took it on myself to fundraiser for the club.
Yeah.
I think there's 50-something sponsors that it was £30 a time for that sponsorship that was sold. But that calendar brought in about 13 or 1400. I think all the sponsors down through the years. But where we went, we got the money.
Now, Brian Whitney recalls the early 2000s and Leitrim Gaels.
I suppose 2001, under the stewardship of Dermot McDonough, we had Pádraig Hackett in the club at the time, and Brian Kane, Hugh Gralton joined as well. In between, we would have had Stan O'Grady as well, a former county player. These players, Mel O'Brien came back from England, helped the team greatly. All these players added something to it, and in 2001, Dermot led us to a Junior B final against Dromahare and Carrick and Shannon in Park Sean, and that was a great, great moment for the club. Brian Kane would have been our captain at the time and would have led from the back at full back for us. A great hard-hitting player. Yeah, he was a leader on the field and a leader off the field. And I suppose that was a moment we probably should have built on more. We didn't. Looking back, I remember going into the following season, Adrian Whitney, my cousin, who had come home from America for that final and wanted to return to New York, got stopped at the airport, and as it happened, he stayed at home and he rejoined the team and worked hard. But that year was something lacking, and unfortunately Adrian passed away on the field training on the 1st of June 2002 in Vera's Field, and I suppose that rallied the troops for another year. Adrian would have been on the original team in 1997, and I'm almost certain he scored the first point in the history of Leitrim Gaels, where James Gilcrease scored the first goal for Leitrim Gaels. Yeah, it was tragic to lose a very, very good footballer, but also a very good friend and teammate for everyone. It shook the club, and it was a horrific thing to witness. But the club has had other tragedies since. I think of young Lorcan Malloy, taken at a very young age in a tragic traffic accident, and Also Frankie Farrell, what a great club member and hugely popular.
Yeah, another member of the Leitrim Gaels first squad, James Gilcrease, who has sadly passed away. James was as I said, a member of the first squad in 1997 and a great advocate of the club. We wish his family all the best, Trish and the two girls and all his family.
And of course I'd also like to mention a very popular player with the club was Kieran Flynn from Killarkin, who we lost last year to motor neuron disease, and he was a very popular figure with the club and always available when we wanted him to play. So Rieshe Gurevananam.
It's very hard sometimes to put a true word on having a club in an area, but I think those families would agree with me in saying it was great at the time to have that support network around. And we ended up losing a quarter-final to the St Mary's team in Park Sean, where we only lost, I think, by 5 points. Then the club did stagnate a wee bit, I thought, after that, for a while. No fault of management, just, I suppose, the underage system wasn't set up at that stage properly. We had tried, numbers being as low as they were, but then population did start to grow. So from there, Tommy Flynn coming home from America would have been a huge moment for us. Dermot McDonough and Enda McDonough would have been heavily involved in underage teams, and no doubt, as you asked me there about leading up to Auchnasheena and last year in the county final, it all stemmed from the work we put in at underage, and there's no doubt about it. They're all lads that started with the club or are with the club a long time, that backbone that team. So it's a great credit to all the underage coaches that's happened. Now we've had other successes in between. Damien Eames and David Foley and Sean Degnan managed teams and were very good and brought it on. Every year we were progressing. You could see it clearly. Every year there was progress with all the managers we had. Up to Mal now, and it's great to see Mal has progressed it even further again and getting us to an intermediate league final and promotion again back to Division 1.
Where we are going at the moment is we have a super crop of players. Hopefully we'll advance one step further in both league and championship this year.
And I'm sure there's clubs looking on at what's happening in Leitrim Gaels, knowing that the club only came about 20 years ago. There's already been, we'll say, call-ups to the county team, and some of the other clubs might be looking on with envious eyes, thinking, I wish we had as many young lads coming through as Leitrim Gaels.
Well, that's true, Mike. We were delighted to have a number of players on the county team, and not forgetting the county hurling team. We have 3 or 4 players on that as well. We, in the beginning, could only dream about what is happening today.
I came on board then just at the first few meetings and stuff like that. I came on board as a club member, and then I came on board as a searcher within the club, and I done chairman and county board delegate and insurance officer and stuff like that.
Currently I'm chairman of the field committee, Leitrim Gaels Field Development Committee. When Vincent Malloy was manager, I was his selector and assistant for a few years, and then as we progressed, Vincent moved on from manager and I took over as manager from him for a couple of years, and I had various other roles. I was chairman for 5 years.
Can you recall the other chairmen who would have been involved over the years with Leitrim Gaels?
Oh, of course I can, yeah. Our first chairman was John Flynn up the road there. He was the most important chairman because he was the first chairman, but John moved on from that after a short time, and then Bernie Whitney took over from him. Bernie, I think, was in it maybe 3 years or that, and then Bernie Goldrick was chairman. Bernie was chairman for 5 years, and I took over from him after his 5 years and did 5 years myself. Then after I finished up, the next chairman then was Mal Guckian. He was chairman for 5 years, and after that James Kane took over. I think James done 2 years, and Currently, we have Mark Chandler. He's chairman at the moment.
What's your future outlook on things?
Well, I'd be only talking on a personal viewpoint. I would say going from strength to strength still. Ladies are coming into being now, and quite a few. Population is growing around the village. The school numbers have gone up from less than 100 up to, I think it's 240, 50 now. So that's really the makings of the club, because if you play at school level and there's a club in the vicinity, well, it's most likely it'll stay there. And we're fortunate enough in having very good people running the club, very good trainers and know how to do their job.
You must have been very pleased at that time when the players from the club got called up to the county.
That's right. Oh, we're very pleased, all right, there's no question. In fact, we even thought that a few of them should have been called before, but anyhow, that was just our thoughts.
It's just remarkable just to see now the Leitrim Gael players featuring in a Leitrim County jersey.
Both Colm Morton and Aidan Flynn of the Leitrim Gaels Football Club made their county debuts for Leitrim in the opening game of the Allianz League Division 4 game against Antrim at Corrigan Park, Belfast on January 28, 2018.
Colm Morton. I suppose I've been there since under 12 all the way up to senior, along with my brothers. I suppose under 12 level we were always playing 9-a-side football right the way up nearly until minor. We won 9-a-side titles for league and championship. And I suppose now the club has progressed and the under 12s and under 14s are playing 15-a-side, which is great, I think. Mighty for the club.
The Leitrim team, I'll give it to you in a second, and it shows no fewer than 7 players making their National Football League debut as Leitrim come on the attack here at the moment. I'll give you the team in just a second. Ball is played through there. Great win there in the middle from Leitrim's number 7, and that number 7 is Colm Morton.
I suppose it's great being representing the club. Only for the club I wouldn't be there. I suppose we got to the intermediate championship final last year and that helped the situation. I was playing good football. We lost by 2 points. I felt we had our chances during the game, but I suppose just that bit of cuteness towards the end of Nottingham Sheelan were worthy winners. Brendan Guckian gave me a call up.
I remember when we started first, when the big fellas would be training on Vera's Hill, Noeleen McLoughlin and myself would be there. And we'd be learning the young fellas. Well, Noeleen would have learned me because Noeleen would be the only one in the club with any medals. She's an All-Ireland football medal.
First time Leitrim won an All-Ireland, I was on the team, 1988.
She would be training the boys how to pass the ball to each other. And that was where them young fellas, that's now training, the Mortons and Michael and all them young fellas, that's where they started, in a circle at the bottom of Vera's Hill.
Yeah.
Passing the ball. Tommy Flynn started with really training them young boys, and he was really the one that stuck with them, and he brought them along. And they're the boys that's playing now senior football in a very short time, you know. And they have gelled together, they work well together.
Peter Guckian was with us too for a while in the start. He done something with us. We used to play football in his field. He set up goals in his field and we used to play and train out there. We had challenge matches. So I started with them, and then we started with the girls. The girls started a team out there, so I was with them for a few years, and they won various titles as well over the years, the girls did.
Aidan Flynn, who also made his debut in that game with Colm Morton, now reflects on his debut.
Yeah, I suppose it was short-lived. Yeah, I cut on my face that day, but I suppose it was a disappointing day because, first of all, I suppose we lost the game. We went up to Antrim to try and win the game first of all, but the 20 minutes I did play was enjoyable to go up to that level and see could I play at that level.
You must be enjoying football at the moment.
We have a great club team there. It's a young team and you know there's been great progress, and that's all due to the people that have been involved in the underage setup the last 10-15 years. Since I was young I've always wanted to play with Leitrim Gaels. Like we'd always look up to the lads that were playing for Leitrim Gaels in the senior team and that. Even though I suppose we would have been down the divisions or whatever, like we would always looked up to the older lads that were playing on the team. We had, I suppose, great men involved as well, underage, like the likes of my father, Tommy Flynn, Dermot and Enda McDonough. They would have always been, encouraging us like growing up, and we seem to be going in the right direction. We've gone up to the divisions. Hopefully we can stay in Division 1 this year, and hopefully we can make another stab at the Intermediate Championship and continue to have the players progressing on to the senior team. Long may it continue, because we've been getting
players like Stephen Goldrick this year coming up to the first team, and very talented players are making a big impact.
Another part of the Leitrim Gaels Football Club that you were involved in, and that was the designing of the crest.
I came up with a design and a shape for the crest. We decided at a meeting that we'd put about maybe 6 to 8 different shapes on it and things from around the village on it. What we did do was we sent the shape of the crest and Gael Leitrim underneath it, and we sent it into the St. Joseph's National School for the kids to pick what they thought was the most important 4 features that should go on the crest. So what they picked was the Cumnal Luctus Gael on the top left hand corner, top right hand corner Shimor with the cross on it, bottom left is the bridge and the canal running under it, and on the right hand side on the bottom is O'Rourke's Castle, which is down just on the edge of the canal, or there's just a wall left now where O'Rourke's Castle was, and that's how the crest came to be.
In your own words, looking back, the things that comes to mind and makes you most happy?
20 years now, you could say, in existence, and the fact that there's so many people who have given so much to it and have given it their time voluntary and have made it for what it is, and the fortunate movements that we made and that people believed in seeing its fruition.
It has developed this area, and in the next few years I only can see it going from strength to strength because of the numbers of underage children we have coming up and the people that's working along with them. There's a lot of new friends made in this area, because before this the children used to have to go into Carrick or someplace else to play football, but now we have our own little community here and everyone is involved, and it's great, yeah.
For the size of the club, for the catchment area that the club has, probably about 500 or 600 people within the area. It really boxes above its weight, both in terms of on the playing field and off the playing field, because when you consider we are 500 people and that there's clubs in Dublin of 100,000 plus, it shows you the magnitude of what's. But fair play to the people involved. I suppose the biggest single thing that would make a difference to the whole thing is if some more got involved.
I personally, I think the future is really, really bright. I'm being much in the under 17s, under 15s, under 13s, great men and people involved with the coaching setup. We also have got, now we're putting focus on the girls setup. We have Catherine Farrell and Angus Martin putting in tremendous work there. Great underage coaches all the way down to under 7s. It's got to a stage where we're discussing buying more property so we could have more ground to train teams, and that's when you're having that discussion coming from Vera's field, as you remember, Mike. Yeah. It's a huge, huge step up, but the future is seriously bright.
Yeah, they should. If they stay at senior level and work hard, hopefully within 5 years they'll have a county title at senior football, and they'll be well able for it.
Are you sorry that the club, Leitrim Gaels, didn't come about sooner?
No, I'm not sorry about it, because in fact I had tried previous to that with lads that played with it. They said it'd be a foolish exercise that you get nobody out and you'd be calling them at 12 o'clock for the day to get out and blah blah blah.
Anything you do different?
We joined scoring in Ogan, senior score, and I'd wish that that would improve a lot. Great for kids, because it gives them a great chance of getting out and appearing in public and getting confidence and all the rest. And something they carry with them all their lives.
It's another part of the GAA that people that doesn't play football or something like that, but they can sing or something else and they can contribute to the club, which is great. It's just as important to be part of that culture as playing football, if you can do it.
And any final words, Bernie?
To thank everybody associated with the club, especially our sponsors, and we had quite a few. We had a big fundraiser in New York, and that was very successful as well. And I also mention that I wish to commemorate the first club and all the people that are involved in it. Most of them are not with us. We're still remembered and always will be.
I'd like to thank the Leitrim Gaels Football Club, the committee, and to all those involved with the club, and to everyone who contributed to the making of this programme. One of the reasons for this documentary is that in 1997, when the club started, I played football with Leitrim Gaels. And it was nice to hear one or two stories from that time.
You were telling me a story about a game and my dad was the umpire.
That's right, Bernie Joe got a good term. Bernie Joe was umpire for, I think it was Lough and Marahampton that day. And to get on in sport, sometimes you need the 16th man. And Bernie Joe was our 16th man at times. He was doing umpire. And I'll never forget this, myself and Gerry Spellman and William Morton were in the back line, under pressure for game after game. But this ball came in and it hit the upright. But Bernie Joe, in his good familiar said, wide. And needless to say, the Mohammed boys weren't that happy with the decision anyhow, and they started out to Bernie Joe. That was a point, Bernie, so it was wide. But they didn't get the better of Bernie Joe, but Bernie Joe's solution to the whole that, hadn't enough of them got anyway, which was right. So you do need a 16th man, and Bernie Joe was our 16th man at times.
Yeah.
To finish, we have Anne Whitney, daughter of Bernie and Francis Whitney, Port Leitrim Village, to sing us out with the song The Shores of Lough Bran, a song that Leitrim Gaels fans will instantly recognise and be familiar with. So until next time, from myself, Mike Mulvihill, I'd like to thank you for listening to this. A reminder to follow my Twitter page at Mike's Powerplay for further updates on documentaries that I'm working on.
Sit you down, loyal comrades, sit you down for a while, till I spent my last hours around Erin's green isles. Come fill up your glasses and we'll drink hand to hand, for tomorrow I am leaving the shores of Lough Bran. On the incoming morning I will bid you adieu, to Leitrim, Drumshambo and sweet Carrick too. But no matter what fortune I will meet on my way, my thoughts shall be with you by night and by day. My thoughts shall be with you while life rolls a span, far away from lovely Erin and the shores of Lough Bran. No more will I ramble around Farna's green hills, and the place I loved dearest was down by the mill. Its green fertile valleys, where oft times I ran to inhale the fresh breezes round the shores of Lough Bran. There's my father and my mother, you can now hear them cry, with their tears so bewailing it would moisten your eye. But I will assist them, please God, if I can, far away from lovely Erin and the shores of Lough Bran. Sit you down, loyal comrades, sit you down for a while I spent my last hours around Erin's green isles. So fill up your glasses and we'll drink hand to hand, for tomorrow I am leaving the shores of Lough Bran. For tomorrow I am leaving the shores shores of Lough Bran.